Hi, I'm Talissa.
And I'm Rachel, and this is Transatlantic Crime, a true crime podcast that covers stories from each side of the pond. Every week, we will both cover a separate story with a running theme.
Disclaimer, this podcast will contain swearing and details that some people may find offensive. If you are of a sensitive disposition, listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Transatlantic Crime.
Crime. So close. Okay, hey Rach.
Hi Talissa, happy Independence Day.
Is it July 4th? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Look, we've had this conversation about how I'm resentful that you broke away from us.
I'm sorry, Talissa. For my ancestors, for everyone, I'm sorry.
Oh, I guess I can forgive you, Rach.
Although I'm Irish, so you can blame all those other people.
Still hate the English though, so
Yeah, that's true.
there's no getting away from it. I think everyone hates the English. And I'm as English as they come. So
Yeah.
I've looked back and there's nothing interesting in the family tree.
Really?
Like, nothing. Yeah,
Oh.
just Midlands.
Oh, we
Yeah.
talked about it though. You have your mom has or on your mom's side, you have your great grandpa, you don't know where he's from.
Yeah, it could be an exotic stranger. I need to do the 23andMe or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, so this is hometowns
Yes.
because you are in your hometown and I am in my hometown.
Technically I'm in my home state.
Are you?
Yes.
Okay, so where's your actual hometown?
St. Paul, Minnesota, but I am in Minnesota. I'm about 2 hours away up by a lake. So,
Lush.
yeah.
Well, I've been to St. Paul, Minnesota, and it's really lovely.
Yeah.
The buildings are just massive, old, I don't know. It looks like it's from a film. Like the train station is really cool, isn't it? If I recall.
I don't know if I've ever been to the train station.
I suppose it must be fine. Well, my hometown is Andover in Hampshire, but nothing interesting has probably ever happened here. So I have had to do a hometown this week from Bristol
Okay.
because I know it might be a little bit cheating, but that really is my hometown now. And also, it would have been a 10-minute story about a guy who punched someone and they accidentally died. Like, that's all there is here. So that's the closest to murder you're getting. I mean, there are a few here, but they happened like a lady was murdered by her abusive husband.
Right.
But that happened oh my God, it happened like the end of last year.
Oh.
So it's just too soon, I think. And also, I literally know the people. So I kind of didn't want to do it. I think that's a bit too close.
Yeah. Well, mine's very close to, it's very connected to me.
Okay.
So.
Well, last week you were related to a Kennedy, and
Yeah.
do you only do people who are related to you?
From now on, it's a podcast about who I'm related to that's murdered.
You're just slowly slipping in your life story. You're getting a free biography.
And then the twist at the end is that I'm just a murderer.
Well, it's always the quiet ones you need to watch, so
Yeah.
wouldn't surprise me.
Sorry, everyone.
Okay, so I'm going first this week, right?
Yes, let's get into it. I'm excited.
I'm doing a hometown murder in the town of Bristol, and the perpetrator is a man called Kevin Weaver. So there's quite a few notorious crimes in Bristol. I did Becky Watts in one of our the Couple Who Kill episode.
Yes.
And there's another lady that got murdered in Bristol very famously called Joanna Yeats, who was murdered by a next door neighbour, but they thought that she was murdered by her old creepy landlord, but she wasn't. And they put in the papers his picture being like, he's a creep, he's a weirdo.
No.
Radiohead was his theme tune. And I really didn't mean it to come out that way. And then I was like, you've just quoted Radiohead. So Yeah, so, and he was in all the papers being like, this fucking guy's a murderer. Wasn't a murderer, just looks creepy. So that was really unfair.
That
But
sucks for him.
really sucks for him. But then he owns 2 houses, so I'm sure he'll get by. Um, right, so there wasn't that much information on this, so I've had to rely fairly heavily on another podcast called the True Crime Enthusiast podcast. So
okay.
I listened to that. That's a little shout out for, it's a single guy that does it. But yeah, it was really helpful. And there was also crimeandinvestigation.co.uk. They had Bristol Crime Profile, which listed this one as well. So yeah, let's get into it. So the 1987 rampage of Kevin Weaver has been almost completely forgotten. 24-year-old Kevin Weaver lived at home with his mum and his sister in Redfield in East Bristol. His father had died some years before, but I couldn't find an actual date of when that was. But basically, he was a massive mummy's boy, which is never a good, never a good look, never a good person to go out with. It's just like
avoid it.
He's just a brat, basically. And then, so he used to be fairly successful. So he was an accounts clerk, but at the time of the crime, he didn't have a job for years, and he was described as an overweight, spotty loner, which I think is quite harsh. I mean, once you find out what he did, it's probably fair dues.
Yeah.
So his mum supported him at this point, and she was a box office attendant at the famous Hippodrome Theatre in the centre of town. I don't know if you saw it when you and Will came.
I've definitely heard of it.
Yeah, it's there's a London Hippodrome.
Yes.
I don't know if the two are related, but yeah, the Hippodrome in Bristol in the centre of town, absolutely gorgeous theatre with really old features, and yeah, it's just been going for years.
What was the last show you saw there?
So the last show, I can't remember what the last one was, but I've seen War Horse, I've seen Swan Lake Ballet, I've seen big comedians play there as well. It's on the comedy scene. So yeah, they do all sorts, but obviously it's been closed because of effing COVID.
Yeah.
So I don't know when we're going to get to go about there. Also, sorry to deviate, but in England, the pubs are open this weekend.
Really?
Which is ridiculous. Because who is more difficult to keep away from each other than drunk people? It's going to be like fucking herding cats.
Well, you know what happened in LA a couple of weeks ago? They opened the bars and restaurants, obviously with some regulations and things like that. Like
screens in between tables and shit, or not really?
It was more like people could sit outside if there was a patio, and some places open inside, but there was a lot of had to wear masks and things like that. But
how do you wear a mask in a fucking restaurant?
Well, the servers had to wear masks and
stuff.
Okay,
yeah.
But this past weekend they shut them all down because they were like, you guys took it way too far, and COVID has spiked, and now we have to close the bars again. So you've just ruined it for everyone.
Yeah, tonight is the night that England ruins it for everyone because the pubs are open. They said they're basically expecting people to spend £23 million in one night, across the country.
That's why they're doing it.
Yeah. Oh, it's fucking, we've got a Tory government at the moment. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
Honestly, we'll be here all day. But yeah, so they have opened the bars, but they haven't opened theatres. It's you can just sit people 4 or 5 seats apart, and they will quietly sit there and watch something. They won't be drinking, punching each other, gobbing when they talk because they're so drunk they're an inch away from your fucking face. It's gonna be a nightmare. Anyway, I'll let you know next week what happens. But I'm not going out. I'm going to my cousin's tonight, and we're gonna do face masks and stuff because I am at home and I'm gonna act like I'm 13 again. So I can't wait. Okay, so his mum worked at the Hippodrome Theatre, and he was a member of a clay pigeon shooting club and owned a number of shotguns, which at the time for him was completely legal. So he owned all his weapons legally.
Okay.
I don't know if you know what clay pigeon shooting is, but it's basically where Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know, it's like a machine that flies out like a very small frisbee. And I don't know why it's called clay pigeon because it looks nothing like a fucking pigeon. It's a
Yeah.
small frisbee. And they should just call it Clay Frisbee Shooting Club.
Maybe it used to be pigeons.
Probably, yeah, like live pigeons, but not dead pigeons that they flung. Like, I don't know. But yeah, and then you just use your shotgun to shoot a flying thing, which to be honest can't be that easy. Must have to be quite talented at shooting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was a member of that. So in England at the time, if you were a member of a shooting club or you were like a farmer, you could basically own a shotgun legally, which I don't need to tell you is very dangerous, I think.
Yeah.
um, so in 1983, he was 21 and he met 16-year-old Alison Woodman. She was attractive and kind, but he was said to be possessive, cruel, and controlling.
Mm.
So I was going to say, like, again, we've mentioned this before, but he's 21 and she's 16. Get a
Yeah.
girlfriend your own age.
Yeah.
Like, you're only going out with her so you can control her.
Right.
After a year of dating, Kevin proposed. However, after another year, in 1985, tired of his erratic behaviour and constant arguments, she broke off the engagement. So Kevin didn't take this very well, and he started stalking her
No.
and insisted that she get back with him. So he would confront her in the street, he would hang around outside her house and call her incessantly. And despite all of this, Alison never reported him for stalking. And at the time, the police probably wouldn't have taken it seriously anyway, because stalking rules didn't get very strict, did they, until like fairly recently.
Right. And she's a 17-year-old girl, so I'm sure at that time
You either
she
find it
wouldn't be.
flattering, like, or you
Yeah.
don't know what to do, or
Right. Or
yeah,
the police would be like, what? He's your boyfriend. Deal with it.
yeah. So she was kind and polite to him, saying that she just wanted to stay friends. Again, fuck politeness,
Yeah.
to quote My Favorite Murder.
Yes.
So on one occasion in February 1987, she agreed to meet him for a chat and a drink. He took this as a sign that she was interested, and when she rebuffed him, he locked her in his car and threatened to kill them both. She managed to escape, and rather than go after her, he drove off and was found in his car by police in, Rachel, Aberystwyth.
What?
Shout out! That's where Rachel went to university.
Yes, that's where I went to college. Or university, sorry. I forget that college to English people is different.
Yeah, it is.
How far is that from Bristol? It's like
It's actually
an
not
hour?
that far.
Really?
Wales is pretty close to Bristol. You can be in Wales in half an hour.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a thing. But actually, yeah, loads of my friends have grown up and bought houses, which I don't think I'm ever going to be able to afford to do. And, they all buy in Wales because it's half an hour away,
Yeah.
and they've stopped the toll on the bridge, so you don't have to pay to get in and out again. And the houses are like half the price.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, loads of my mates have moved to Newport.
And the Welsh accent is very nice. Yeah.
Okay, so he was in Aberystwyth, and the police found him, and he had a shotgun in his boot. So he was pretty serious about saying he was going to kill Alison. After this event, he was due to be charged with kidnapping and firearm offences, but Alison refused to press charges against him, and she even wrote a letter to the police asking them to return his firearms as they were confiscated after the kidnapping.
What?
Rightly so. Like, of course, take his guns off him.
Yeah.
So get this: his mum also wrote a police begging for his guns back.
Oh.
Like, my mummy wrote me a note.
I've been reading a lot lately of like crimes where the mom has like stepped in and been like, please listen to my son. He's actually a nice boy.
Fuck off, mate. You're part of the problem. But remember Ted Bundy's mum?
Yeah.
Like, she was like, my Teddy would never do that. Like, mate, you don't even want to know what he's been doing.
That was a good accent too.
Was it? Oh, thanks, mate. I'm quite the mimic. Yeah, and somehow he got his doctor to write to the police as well, saying that the doctor had no concerns about his mental health. So after all of this, his gun license was reinstated, and he got all his guns back. Again, this is the face that you can't see that Rachel's making, which is like that little white monkey.
This is the mistake of whatever he does after this is not only his fault, but the fault of all those people.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then, because he's so controlling, did he just manipulate them and go on and on and on and on at them until they agreed to do that for him?
Yeah, that's true. But even so, it's like
especially Alison, she's only 17, and like
hers different. But I'm talking about his mom, his doctor. Those people are adults.
Yeah, like as a doctor, you would be like, okay, well, why did they get taken off you? Because like maybe he lied, but it's like, because I kidnapped my girlfriend and threatened to shoot her.
Yeah.
What, but you're not mad? Okay, here's the gun back.
Right.
Like, no. Also, if you're his mum, you should be going, she definitely knows what he did.
Yeah.
Like, even if the doctor didn't.
Right.
Yeah, after that, Alison did cut all ties with him.
Good.
Rightly so.
Yeah.
So he continued stalking her, and then he started drinking more heavily, and he also became obsessed with an event that happened that year. So on the 19th of August, 1987, Michael Ryan committed the Hungerford Massacre. Have you heard of this?
No.
So Hungerford, again, it's not very far from Andover. I drive through there all the time. And it was like one of the most famous shooting incidents in Britain, along with the Dunblane Massacre.
Okay, I know about that one.
Yeah, because that was kids, wasn't it? So it was especially horrendous. Right. But yeah, in the Hungerford shooting, Michael Ryan, who also lived with his mother and had a gun license, went on a rampage, killing 16 people, including his own mother and an unarmed police officer, before shooting himself in his old high school. So
wow.
The high school that he went to, my brother's wife went to as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it was August, so school wasn't on. He just went there.
No.
Okay, that's good.
He broke in. So the shootings were committed using a handgun and 2 semi-automatic rifles. Jeez. And they occurred at several locations, and 15 people were also shot but survived. So he killed 16 and he wounded 15.
Whoa.
And really badly as well. Like, people were paralyzed. Absolutely hideous.
Wow.
So there's very little coverage of this crime that I'm telling you about, because that year Michael Ryan did that crime, and it was so horrific that was all that was in the papers. So it's really hard to get information on this Kevin Weaver crime, because it happened like very similar time.
Right.
So the Firearms Amendment Act of 1988 was passed in the wake of the Hungerford Massacre, which bans the ownership of semi-automatic rifles and restricts the use of shotguns with a capacity of more than 3 cartridges. Mm-hmm. So in England, if you're going to shoot anyone, it would be with a shotgun.
Okay.
Because you cannot get hold of any other guns, basically.
Right. It's different here.
Yep. Why would you need an automatic firearm?
I said the exact same thing a couple of days ago, but have you seen, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent a little bit, but have you seen that picture of the couple outside of their home? I can't remember what state it was in. Recently, it was this week.
Did she have mustard on her shirt?
No, I don't know. But the protests were going on. Peaceful protests were going on.
Yes, it is the woman with the mustard.
Did she have mustard on her shirt? I didn't know that.
There was a meme and somebody was taking the piss out of her.
Yeah.
And they were taking the piss out of the mustard on her shirt. And yeah.
But he's holding like a huge assault rifle, and it's like
a
what do you need that?
Kalashnikov.
Yeah, what do you need that for? You know?
Just because you've got a tiny penis, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to hold a big old gun.
Yep.
But yeah. Yeah, and obviously with a shotgun, you can only put in 2 cartridges, then you shoot, and then you have to reload.
Yes.
So that really slows down like any potential crime spree you could go on.
Right. You would be stupid to go on a crime spree.
It would just take ages.
Yeah.
Our police are armed now. Only certain ones, but they are.
Yeah.
So they do shoot people, like
Right.
they do shoot people dead,
Yeah.
definitely. But mostly they go for a taser,
Yeah.
which, to be honest, disarms you far more like than you're just like a mess on the floor.
Yeah.
Like,
You might shit yourself. You might
yeah,
piss
it's really
yourself.
debilitating. And also it's humiliating.
I've seen videos of sometimes a taser doesn't work on people who are really off their face on drugs. It
Really?
won't affect them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I've seen a video of a cop trying to tase someone and he just keeps walking towards him.
Fuck, was he on like bath salts or whatever?
I don't know, something heavy. It could yeah.
That's crazy. I never knew that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine as well tasering someone and they keep walking towards you? You'd be
Terrifying.
like, fuck. Yes.
It's like, are you
You're
a
like,
zombie?
shit, it's the Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've tased the Hulk. Brilliant. Okay, so 2 months after the Hungerford massacre, on the morning of the 14th of October 1987, Kevin decided that he was going to kill Alison. There was a problem, however. Due to his drinking, he'd been banned from driving, and he also didn't have a car. And he needed to drive to Alison's. Like, you fucking loser. He needed to drive to Alison's work, which is on the outskirts of Bristol. So
Smart
his sister,
dude.
Lynn, yeah, I figured that one out. So it's like, I mean, why don't you wait until, whatever. It has to be done now. I need a car now. His sister, Linda Weaver, who was asleep at the time in the same house, they both lived with their mum. I don't know how old his sister was, but anyway, she had a car, but Kevin knew that she wouldn't lend it to him. So she wouldn't lend it to him because he was drunk, and she also like disapproved of him stalking Alison.
Yeah.
Killjoy. So
the voice of reason in his life, probably the only voice of reason. He doesn't have his mom, he doesn't have his doctor. Anyone who could be like, you should stay at home and maybe feel a little bit better about yourself.
yeah. How about you read a self-help book?
Yeah. That was his sister.
Yeah. Yeah. Double your car, what for? To stalk Alison? No. So, yeah, so this is a bit savage. So if you're of a sensitive disposition, I would skip.
Okay.
So he decided to enter her bedroom with a hammer and smashed it over her skull at least 30 times.
Wow.
He put so much effort into the killing that he snapped the handle of the hammer.
Whoa.
He then, he's a big guy. He's like 16 stone,
Whoa.
which I don't know what that is. Do you use stone in America?
No. So
No.
14, there's 14 pounds in 1 stone. That's a lot.
So 14 times 16, 100 times 100. Oh, I don't fucking, like, this isn't a maths podcast. Last night I was with my parents and they were talking about like how many halfpennies in a threepence and how many fucking farthings in a shilling and all, and I was just, and they were like, oh yeah, a halfpenny was like the size of a fucking car tax disc, and you could like get like, my stepdad was literally doing that thing where he goes, I could go and watch West Ham play at the football ground, then I could get myself a size Barella drink, and then I could go and get some pie and mash, and I'd have enough left over to fucking get the bus to Birmingham or whatever. I was just like, Jesus Christ. Also, carrying this thing around, it sounds like a hubcap.
Yeah. What?
I know you're a kid, but geez. Yeah, just it was like a Grandpa Simpson moment. So
he was a big guy.
He's a big guy. I don't know how many pounds. He's killed his sister, and then he got her body and he dragged it from the bedroom and placed it in the bath. He then got another hammer and waited for his mum to return from shopping.
No.
He hid behind the hall door, creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
Then when she entered the house, he attacked her and killed her the same way he had his sister, and placed her body on top of his sister's and filled the bath with water.
Oh.
which is weird. I don't know why he did that, but he went downstairs, he washed and tumble dried his blood-stained clothes and then redressed. But this time with a bulletproof vest he'd bought earlier on top of them. Just wear some different clothes. But anyway, so he filled a bag with 3 shotguns. One was a sawn-off shotgun and plentiful ammunition. And then he set a booby trap for anyone who entered the house. And Michael Ryan had done this as well, so it really was like a copycat crime. So he turned on all the gas hobs on the oven and then rigged a shotgun under the table with a tripwire, so when it shot, the gas would explode. And then he set off in his sister's car to find Alison with a bottle of whiskey, some lemonade, and his guns.
Okay.
This guy sounds American.
He was watching too many action movies at the time, probably.
Well, that's a funny thing that you say that, because that might come up later.
What?
Yeah. So when he showed up at when he showed up at Alison's work, Alexandra Workwear, he loaded the shotgun and headed for Alison's desk in the computer room. So it's the 80s, so there's probably like 2 computers in one room. But as he entered the factory, co-workers realised who he was and that he was striding towards Alison's desk with a shotgun. He grabbed her wrist and said, "Come on, Alison, we're leaving. You're coming with me." Alison screamed and managed to slip away and run towards the other end of the office. So hearing all this, office manager David Purcell came out to see what the commotion was and tried to grab the gun from Weaver. He wasn't fast enough, however, and Weaver shot David in the shoulder from a close range. This caused horrific damage and David fell to the floor. So Weaver calmly shot him again, in his own words, to end his suffering.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and shotgun to the shoulder, it literally just rips you apart, doesn't it? A shotgun.
And depending on, because your heart is right there too. It's very close.
Yeah, probably got some good veins and stuff that would So after this, he just began shooting randomly. A bit about David. So he was 29 and he was the father of twin baby girls that had just been born. I know. He was a former policeman, which may have been the reason why he decided to try and intervene.
Yeah. I
mean, I know that, if he had have stopped him, it would have been great, but, my opinion is don't be a fucking hero. If you've just had baby girls, you fucking run.
Yeah. Well, he probably left the police because he just had babies and wanted, a safer lifestyle.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
It's just the horrible luck of the draw.
Yeah.
As well. But yeah, I'm just saying, if that was me, I would have fucking hauled ass.
Well, he died a hero.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, I'm a coward. I'm not slagging him off, but I'm just saying, it would not be my approach.
Yeah.
So after that, he began shooting randomly, and a bullet hit 48-year-old accountant John Peterson through a partition wall. He was hit in the back and later died in an ambulance on the way to hospital. So he probably didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah.
It just got shot and that was that. So Weaver then headed towards Alison again and he pointed the shotgun straight at her head. Everyone was either hiding under desks or in other parts of the office or had run from the building. Weaver then aimed and shot the gun at the floor beside her and said, "This is your lucky day." He really has been watching too many action films, hasn't he? He's got fucking smart-ass little comments to say.
Who is he, Bruce Willis?
Definitely not.
What does he look like, by the way? Oh, he's fat and spotty. That's what it said at the beginning.
He is fat. He is fat and spotty, and he's got quite long floppy. He's got floppy emo hair.
Oh.
Which I don't think was fashionable at the time in the 80s. But it would have been fashionable when we were at college or high school or whatever.
Yes.
He is a bit of a gross looking guy.
Okay.
He looks greasy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll put there will be a picture up on the Instagram if anyone wants to go and have a gander. Yeah, so he left the office and he got back into his car. He looked down and he saw Linda Smith, who was a 20-year-old colleague of Alison's who had fled the office, but mistakenly she'd taken shelter behind his car. But basically she had suffered from polio and couldn't move as quickly as everybody else. So she just exhausted, took refuge behind his car.
Oh.
And yeah, I know. And then 2 lorry drivers had seen her struggling and came to help.
Oh.
Weaver aimed his gun at her, but as he did, the lorry driver shouted, "Don't be silly, put it down," which he did.
Oh,
And yeah, do you know what? He just needed his dad to tell him off.
yeah.
Like, because that is such a dad thing to say.
That's what he needed from everyone. That's what he needed from his doctor.
Yeah, he needed to, like, dad figure.
Just someone yell at him and give him a slap and
Stop being silly.
yeah.
Yeah, so to which he replied, "I've done what I came to do." What a brat.
Oh my gosh.
So once he'd sped off and the authorities were informed, a manhunt was launched and teams of armed police started to search for Weaver. About 8 miles from the shooting and just 45 minutes later, Weaver was apprehended by PC Mark Nicholson, and this is a fun name, PC Peter Pugsley.
Oh.
Cute.
It's a pug.
It's a pug in a uniform. Don't be silly, put it down. That's a pug voice. The 2 officers had seen his car at the side of the road and stopped the traffic. They then used a tannoy to order him to come out of the car with his hands above his head. So he got out of the car with a bottle of whiskey in one hand and a newspaper in the other. He then reportedly sat down and spread the newspaper across his knees and was drinking the whiskey. You're cool. So he didn't resist arrest and was handcuffed and charged with the 2 murders in the office. The police didn't yet know about his mother and sister. He told them they should be careful when they try and get into his house. He also said to the officers, "Was it only 2 people? I thought I shot at least 3 people."
What a dick.
Just so weird. Like, it's like he's trying to be cool.
Yeah.
But it's just not coming off.
No.
When they arrived at his house, the police could smell gas. I don't know what it's like for you, but in England they added smell to gas because, well, Ross says this in Friends, doesn't he?
What?
Ross says that they added smell to gas, and then Phoebe goes, "Ross, what else did they add smells to?" Because he's trying to come onto the pizza woman. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, it is like that in America. Ross has already answered the question for me. So they knew he lived with his mother and sister, but there was no one answering the door. So they decided to evacuate the street and turn off the gas supply. They then smashed the windows to let the gas escape. And when they felt it was safe, they entered the property with extreme caution.
Mm-hmm.
They found the detonator gun and disarmed it. And it was then that they spotted the blood-spattered hallway and carpet and knew there had been a murder here too. Upstairs, they discovered Margaret and Linda Weaver in the bath where they had been left earlier that day. Upon searching the rest of the house, police found 2 homemade garrotes, books on survivalism, handcuffs, ammunition, and he also had a collection of Hungerford Massacre coverage recordings. So he'd recorded the news coverage off the telly.
Oh. So he really was a copycat kind of guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a loser.
I know. Get your own style. At the police station, Weaver explained that all he wanted to do was kill Alison that day, but he was still in love with her, so he just couldn't. Regarding David Purcell, the office manager, he remarked, "I felt threatened by him. I thought that he was going to overpower me, so I shot him. I shot him a second time to stop him suffering."
Whatever.
So, 5 months later, the trial began at Bristol Crown Court on the 28th of March 1988, year I was born. Yes, please. Weaver pled guilty to all counts, 4 counts of manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility and various firearms offences. He was described as a psychopath whose responsibility was severely impaired by his extreme bouts of depression. See, that's interesting because psychopathy isn't a defence, and in terms of insanity, and neither is depression. So,
right,
really, that shouldn't wash the diminished responsibility. But
right.
The court decided he was guilty on grounds of diminished responsibility, and they sentenced him. But this is a good thing because they sentenced him to an undefined sentence at Broadmoor Maximum Security Psychiatric Hospital for the rest of his life, as he was an appalling danger to the public at large. So it's better that he was diagnosed as like diminished responsibility, because then they can just put you away for however long they want.
Right.
They don't have to give you a sentence. They can
Yeah.
just say until you're no longer a danger,
Oh.
which he obviously always will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know, like Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper,
Yes.
he's in Broadmoor.
Just indefinitely.
Yeah, and I think, or maybe he was moved to. He keeps being like swapped back from prison to like mental prison, but it's because he said that he was hearing voices, but then people said he just made that up. And then another reason they gave was that in regular prison, it was so difficult to stop him from being attacked that they just moved him to Broadmoor.
Right.
Because it was just easier and safer for like everyone involved.
Yeah.
So Alison Woodman was reportedly torturing herself for helping Weaver get his weapons back. I mean, you did help him. You kind of should. I hope this just teaches her to be a bit more of a hard ass.
Right. And everyone.
That's all you can hope for. Yeah. I mean, you should feel a bit guilty. But he was trying to kill you, but then he killed your workmates. So,
right.
I don't know. When you're 17, you do stupid shit.
Yeah,
don't you?
she was young. It's okay. I'll give her
to
a
be
pass.
honest, loads of boyfriends manipulated me into doing stupid shit when I was 17. And I was like, if it makes you love me.
Right.
Like, well, and so she felt really guilty. And then that was probably because of newspaper headlines such as, and this is a real newspaper headline, girl helped killer keep the gun he used in massacre. How unfair is that?
That's really unfair.
How about man committed massacre?
Yeah.
Like,
no wonder she felt guilty. I mean,
she's 17. That's so shitty.
Yeah, you already will feel guilty for doing what you did, but then having a newspaper, a national newspaper?
Yeah.
Telling everyone that it's basically your fault.
And it's so fucking misogynistic as well.
Yeah.
How is it her fault?
Right.
Also, the mum did it, the doctor did it, they're not in the headline. Just girl.
It's like my story last week about Ted Kennedy, and it was like, Ted Kennedy ruins his chance at presidency and blonde dies.
Yeah, literally. It's so that's how, it's just like, that's how you know that misogyny is ingrained in society, because you read headlines like that.
Right.
Like, that just dismiss women, blame women. He was the one that shot people. Anyway, that's my rant for the day. So the incident happened just 56 days after the Hungerford massacre. And the right to possess firearms is not guaranteed by UK law. As a result of this shooting and the Hungerford shootings, laws changed in England. The Home Secretary, Douglas Hurd, was pressured by the Police Federation and the Labour Party to move as rapidly as possible to tighten gun laws by putting legislation before Parliament. He banned machine guns and military-style automatic rifles like that used by Michael Ryan, and made shotguns subject to more stringent licensing requirements that apply to semi-automatic sporting rifles and pistols. Anne Taylor, the Labour spokesman on Home Affairs, called for new licensing procedures that would remove the onus of such decisions from the police and require individuals to show a genuine need for a shotgun. So, for example, farmer would need a shotgun to shoot a horse in the head if it was broken a leg or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously if you've got like a clay shooting, pigeon shooting thing, you would need shotguns.
Right.
But I'm assuming they have to do some sort of training as well. You can't just have one.
Yeah.
But yes, and also this is really funny. So he was like, he watched loads of action films.
Okay.
And that was put in the paper. And then as a direct result of the Hungerford massacre and this massacre, the Independent Broadcasting Authority, which oversees the main commercial channels in England, reduced the amount of American programming from 5.5 to 4 hours a week.
What?
You're a bad influence, Rachel.
Sorry.
So the hero, David Purcell, who risked and lost his life while trying to protect his colleagues from Weaver, received a posthumous award for his actions, the Queen's Gallantry Medal.
Oh.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is the story of the spotty loser, Kevin Weaver.
Who's probably still in wherever he's at, right?
Broadmoor. Do you know what? This is a funny thing. So I tried to find out if he was still there, and I googled like, how do you find out if a prisoner is still there? And
I
a
saw
page came
that
up.
on your Instagram.
Yeah, page came up saying find a prisoner, and I was like, am I really going to do this? And I told my dad about it. My dad was like, call Broadmoor. I was like, I'm not fucking calling Broadmoor. And he was like, well, they can only say no, which I suppose he is right about.
Please call them at some point. Just do it, please, and record it.
That might be a little extra.
Yes.
We can put that out as a hi. I run a podcast, and I'd just like to know, is Kevin Weaver still knocking around?
Can I talk to him?
Sorry, woman, we're busy like keeping you safe from some of the most lethal maniacs in the country, if you don't mind.
I like how that's our parents' generations. Just give him a call. Like,
just ring him.
Nobody calls each other anymore.
No, I'm like a millennial. I'm like, I will text them or email them. Yeah. I'm not bothering people. Yes. Have you seen that meme that's like when someone tries to call you instead of texting you and it's just a bird flying at someone's face? And he's just like, ah.
It's true.
It is true. Don't, like, I've got some friends and they are callers.
Yeah.
Like, I'll text them and they'll go, oh, give me a call, or they'll call me back. And I'm like, Jesus, no. Like, I think it's because, like, I'm so used to having my attention on, like, 5 things at once.
Yeah.
That, like, if I have a phone call, that's it. Your entire attention has to be on that phone call, really.
Right.
And I just find it quite, like, invasive. Does that make sense?
It is. It's kind of like a mini panic attack.
It's demanding your time.
Yeah.
It's demanding of your time. Like, that's how I see it. Whereas, like, if I try to explain that to my parents, they'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Just answer the phone.
It's just a conversation.
Yeah, but that's the only people I really talk to on the phone. It's my mum and dad and elderly relatives. Do you and Will call each other? Like, you're barely ever apart in this, I suppose, so it must have been a while.
Yeah, but... if we're apart. I tried to be one of those people who called people too, because I was like, oh, I need to connect with people more.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do it. I would tell people that I would call them, and then I would have a mini panic attack about that.
I couldn't bring myself.
I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Fucking hell. We need to grow up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So wait, so you looked to see if he was in prison still. Did you find him?
No, because it said you need to send an email with like who they are, why you want to know, who you are, like what you do, like all this information. And it said, you know, we'll get back to you in like 20 working days or some shit. And I was just like, right, 1, I don't feel like I have a right to ask. No. 2, I probably could have asked, but because authors do it all the time, I suspect. But
and I'm sure real legit podcast people.
Real podcast people, not us.
Yeah.
Not us fucking shysters. I'm like, yeah, I feel like a massive fraud. So I think I just thought they'd reply and go, stop bothering us, you stupid girl.
They just wouldn't reply.
They just print out my email and then put it in the bin, even though they didn't need to, just because it was so stupid.
I just thought of that SpongeBob meme where it's like, he has a piece of paper and it says something on it, and then he just throws it in the fire.
They actually lit a fire to throw the computer into that I emailed them on.
Yeah. So we don't know, but hopefully he's still locked away.
I would assume so. Okay. Like he's been keeping a pretty low profile, because usually we have people that are like dicks in prison, try and sue the prison service. Like, I think they've got him drugged up real nice and just shoved away in Broadmoor.
Well, also, he was in his 20s, so maybe he was young enough to realize what he did and realize that he was a huge idiot.
Yeah, as well, in prisons, I don't think they really some prisons, I'm assuming here, but I think in Broadmoor they give you psychological help.
Right.
A lot more than you would get in a regular prison.
Yeah.
So... Also, I don't think he'd be able to hack prison. He sounds like an absolute mummy's boy. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it sounds like an absolute baby.
Yeah.
Like, I think they thought if we put you in prison, someone's going to kill you or you're going to kill yourself within like a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, can we talk about Ghislaine Maxwell?
Yes, please.
Yes. Caught that girl.
So, do you think that she's gonna die?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
I don't know. What do you think? It's a chance. I think there's a chance.
I think that she might be a very smart person and she knows a lot, but
Yeah, she knows everything probably.
she can probably negotiate her way and say some things
Oh,
and
do you know? Because she can do the whole. If I dob them in, I get immunity.
yeah, right.
I reckon she'll go. So you reckon she'll go that route?
But still, I don't know. It's just scary. I'm in her place. Obviously, she's a horrible person. But even if she got immunity and she got free or she went to jail or whatever, still every minute of every day would be terrifying because she.
You know, people are after you.
Yeah.
Obviously, like all the secrets died with Epstein.
Yeah.
Well, not all of them, but like a vast majority of them.
But she was very close to him. She.
She was basically his like hunter,
Yeah.
wasn't she?
Yeah.
For victims.
Right.
She was like equivalent of like Carla Homolka or like Rose West
Right.
or what's she called? Myra Hindley.
Mm-hmm.
Like she would just fish for victims because you trust a woman. Like as a young girl, you trust women
Yeah.
way more.
Yeah.
And you're never someone goes, oh, a woman comes up and talks to you. They don't say run away and tell them to piss off. They're like, that's okay.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, like if I get lost, my mum would be like, look for a lady
Mm-hmm.
to help you.
Yeah.
So it's really dark, like that he used a woman to recruit younger women.
Yeah.
Like it's
She doesn't
horrible.
sound. I mean, she came from a very wealthy background. It sounded like her dad was kind of a predator too. So maybe that's all she knew for her whole
Yeah,
life.
super ingrained like
Yeah. But
behavior.
still really fucked up.
Really fucked up. But yeah, she has got a fucking number on her head, isn't she?
Yes.
Like definitely.
Where
Yeah.
even is she right now?
Well, the FBI have her, and she was found in New England, New Hampshire,
Oh, okay.
I think.
Yeah.
So,
There was a
but yeah, where the fuck has she been this whole time?
well, there was some tabloid or something took a picture of her apparently reading a book in LA at an In-N-Out.
I mean, that's good taste in burgers. I'll give her that.
Yeah, but she's like a super wealthy person.
That can't be her.
Like what? Yeah, I don't think it was her, but apparently there were rumors in LA for a while that she was like going to Pilates classes and at In-N-Out, and it's just like I don't know. And the book that she was
There's
apparently,
a lot of true crime like lovers in LA, I'm sure.
but the book that she was apparently reading at In-N-Out was like something about it was like a true crime book about a whistleblower or something like that.
No.
So it was just like, I don't know. It's and someone said
That seems a bit perfect.
right, but like, is she sending a message like she knows what's going on, or she is already in talks with the FBI or whatever? And it's just if you look it up, you'll be able to read about it. But it was just
I'll try and find the picture and put it on our Instagram.
yeah, okay.
Of her. Is it a picture of her reading a book in In-N-Out?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so if anyone doesn't know, In-N-Out is a burger place do they have them everywhere or is it just LA?
No, it's only in some states on the west side of America. So it's in California, it's in Arizona, Vegas, like Nevada, I think.
Lovely.
Yeah.
That suits Vegas down to the ground. It's just
Yeah.
like it's a really fun McDonald's. Like it looks like spacey, like I don't know. I was really impressed by it.
It's also it was started by a pretty religious guy, so all the cups have like John 16:21 or something on it. And
Yeah, I saw that. The cup has like a Bible quote on the bottom.
Yeah.
Like which I was like, ew.
But like they get the potatoes fresh from California, I think. So it's it's everything's just very
Wholesome.
simple and fresh and wholesome. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Big fan. Big fan of them.
And thank you for sponsoring us In and Out.
Mate, the funny thing is, I'll put this picture up as well. When me and you walked up Runyon Canyon, which is like a famous like hiking place in LA,
Yeah.
and there was like Instagram models everywhere. Like
yeah.
they were so fit and gorgeous, and I was there like hefty lump in like my fucking golfing trousers and like an In-N-Out Burger t-shirt. And then I like led down like with my hand on my hip and was like, Rachel, take a picture of me next to the Hollywood sign. So sweaty.
And the Hollywood sign is like tiny behind
Yeah.
you.
I nearly died on that hike.
It was hot that day too.
Yeah, and you were really sweet. You were like, it's okay if we stop again.
All right, so you ready for my story?
Yeah, I'm ready because you said it involves you. So
I have a close relationship. It's more my husband. It's related very closely to him. So
and he wanted to be on this podcast badly, didn't he, this week?
Yes.
We were like,
I could go get him after this.
Yeah, I'm just worried. Like, it's just a very girly atmos. And yeah, I'm just being precious, I think. Like, I'm like, no, it's mine.
Yeah. That's exactly how I felt. But no, and I actually do. There are like, I do have some pretty close to me hometown murders. There was like my childhood friend growing up. Her dad killed her mom, and my cousin's girlfriend, she and her whole family were shot in their home.
Whoa.
Yeah, there was, and I might do that story someday because I've always wanted to research it more.
Yeah.
But this one is about Dennis Jurgens.
I have never heard of him.
He is only a sweet baby angel, so you probably
haven't.
Yeah,
this
is a warning if you don't like child abuse or...
Well, not like it, but like...
if you don't like listening to that or...
Like Rachel loves it, so...
No!
Sorry, I'm just yanking your chain.
Yeah, if it's hard for you to tolerate, then maybe it's not something to listen to.
Good trigger warning.
Yes. Okay. On December 6th, 1961, Dennis Craig Pickett was born to teenager Jerry Sherwood. Jerry was a teen mother and was convinced to put Dennis up for adoption, to which she agreed, believing the promises that he would be sent to a good home and a loving family.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not a good start.
This is a sad story.
Okay.
I'm sad to be ending on it.
To be fair, mine wasn't a walk in the fucking park, but yeah. It was easier to mock.
So Dennis was sent to the Jurgens, Harold Robert Jurgens, a former band leader turned electrician, and Lois Germaine Josephine Zerwaz Jurgens.
Fuck off! How many names do you want?
This woman is the horrible part of the story. So, Lois had grown up in an impoverished family of 16 siblings. She had a pathological...
Shitting hell.
I know. She had a pathological need for control over her environment and obsessively cleaned and tended to her home and garden, desperate to appear the picture of the perfect housewife.
Is she Catholic? Because that sounds a very Catholic thing to do. Have loads of kids and also be obsessively clean.
Yeah, I think she was. 16 kids.
I say that because my mum came from a Catholic family with 12... she's one of 12 and she is obsessively clean.
Oh, hey, I'm one of 9.
Yes! Yeah.
I'm not obsessively clean, though, which annoys my husband, so...
You're pretty clean. Like, or are you just on your best behavior when I'm around?
Yes. I hate people come. I hate having guests over to my house and it not being clean.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's taken a lot of mental control for me. I'm not a clean person.
Some people, you walk in their house and it's like an absolute shithole, and you're like, how do you have the brass balls to like let me in here?
You're okay with me coming over right now?
Yeah, I see how you live. Anyway, yeah, go
So just imagine like Mad Men style, like she just wanted to have the perfect house and the perfect family. And her brother Jerome Zerwas was also the police lieutenant of the town of White Bear Lake, Minnesota, where she lived at the time.
on. White Bear Lake. Sounds familiar.
Yes, that is where my husband's family are from.
Oh, and I've been to a house, haven't I? I've been to Will's parents' house.
Yes.
Is that near the lake?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, White Bear Lake. So yeah, one of her brothers was a cop, and yeah, so Dennis
Really thought you were
was,
going to say cock.
he was also that.
Okay.
So little baby Dennis was sent to Lois and Harold Jurgens.
Okay.
Okay, a little more about Lois. Lois Jurgens had suffered bouts of depression and psychosis, including an extended stay at a psychiatric institution where electroconvulsive therapy was administered. She was diagnosed as having mixed psychoneurosis. I think that's the word.
Psychoneurosis.
Yes. And
Yeah.
also unable to conceive a child with Harold. This drove Lois further into madness, and she felt she needed children to complete the perfect picture of her life.
Well, yeah, like back then, that's pretty much all you were there. Like, you got married to have children.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm. And
yeah.
I think that she wanted to be a part of. I mean, she came from 16 kids, so that's what she wanted.
Used
She
to a big
wanted a huge
family. Yeah.
family. Yeah. And she
Hmm.
thought that was the normal part of life. Also, I got a lot of this from a really good book. It's called A Death in White Bear Lake: The True Chronicle of an All-American Town.
Cool.
Yeah.
White Bear just sounds like such a cool name.
It is cool. It's also one of the deepest lakes in Minnesota. Fun fact.
And you got a fucking lot of lakes.
Yep. 10,000.
Jeez.
So yeah, read that book. Okay, back to the story.
Hmm.
So they were officially forbidden to adopt children owing to Lois's history of mental illness. The Jurgenses managed to adopt a baby named Robert privately. Robert fit in well at the Jurgens household, as he learned from a young age not to get in his mother's way or cause an undue mess that would likely send Lois into a rage. The Jurgens' adoption of Robert seemed successful in the eyes of authorities, who began to consider the possibility that they might adopt more children through official channels.
Yeah, I guess it helps to have one.
Yeah. So Dennis was sent to the Jurgens. Sorry, I'm going to read that again. Dennis was sent to the Jurgens when he was just over a year old. Lois immediately took a disliking to him.
You wanted him.
I know. Within months of living with the Jurgens, Dennis was rushed to the hospital with second-degree burns on his genitals, which was reported as accidental. I minimized a lot of his injuries and what she did to him. Yeah.
How old was he when that happened?
Just probably like a year and a half.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. So he can't even, can't talk and say
I know.
someone did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lois made Robert and Dennis recite the rosary every night. So, yeah, they were Catholic.
Yeah, you seem lovely.
And of course, because in her eyes, Robert was the good son and recited it flawlessly, while Dennis had to do it while kneeling on a broomstick until Lois thought he did it as well as Robert. So Robert was the terrified first child that did everything he was told. And apparently he could recite the rosary when he was 2 years old. And
Wow.
so when Dennis couldn't, then he was punished for it.
God.
By all accounts, Lois was obsessed with abusing Dennis, and she wanted the world to know that he was a bad child, that's in air quotes. And she made no apologies about the inappropriate way she was disciplining him.
Which was...
Harold was generally passive during these occasions as well. Neighbors and family thought he was there just for Lois's bidding. He was more like he just stayed out of it. Like, you know, sometimes she would involve him and he would kind of pretend that he was, you know, disciplining him or whatever, and he wasn't.
Wasn't really.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's quite common, isn't it, for like, well, in my family it was anyway, like my dad never hit me or anything like that, but like my mum was the disciplinarian.
Yeah.
Like she because they're basically like men shouldn't smack children, but like women can, basically.
Yeah.
Not to say I was like beaten as a kid. I probably got like 5 taps on the ass, but like
Yeah, I don't know. I think he just seemed very whipped. Like he just did whatever she said. Exactly. So while they had him, he once suggested that they shouldn't go through with adopting Dennis since Lois disliked him so much. But she said that if they didn't adopt Dennis, then they wouldn't be able to adopt any other children as it would look bad on them to authorities. So that's why they kept Dennis.
I see her twisted logic.
Yeah. Okay, it starts to get a little bit horrible.
Oh, God.
On April 11th, 1965, Lois called Harold at work. "Dennis and I have been at it again," Lois had told him. "You better come home."
A child?
I know. He's, you know, just over 2 years old.
Fucking hell, what is he doing? Like, what can he do to her? Like, yeah.
It's so sad. Harold had known what that meant. He had packed up his things and driven straight home. That night, he put Dennis in bed with him, and in the middle of the night, Dennis woke up and he had to go to the bathroom. In the morning, when they woke up, Dennis was dead.
Shit. She just...
Yeah.
No, I'm going to do that thing again where I guess. Just tell me.
I don't... It's... There was a lot of abuse, so he had a lot of bruises and things like that. There was a story about how he would wear sunglasses. He was a 2-year-old, and they made him wear sunglasses so that it would hide his bruises.
Oh my God, poor little fucker.
Yeah. The only witness to Lois's final abuse of Dennis was Robert, who was 5 years old at the time. Lois and Harold maintained that he had fallen down the stairs, and he had also had a bad cold at the time. So when they took him to the hospital, then that's basically what they said when they called the doctors.
He must have been battered. If they said he fell down the stairs, he must have been covered in bruises. Like,
yeah. So he was 3 years old at that time. The coroner originally attributed the 3-year-old boy's death to an infection caused by a perforated bowel. So in his stomach, he had just a really bad injury in his abdomen area.
Like she'd made him eat something that would perforate a bowel, or she's either put something and perforated his bowel that way.
She kicked him.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Thing is, a 2-year-old is so defenseless, like so easy to kill.
Yeah, that's why it's so messed up. It's just like, I think the older son, Robert, was just like the perfect child because he was scared all the time, so he did everything he was told. And the Dennis was just a little bit more outgoing and more, you know, a kid who loves life and wants treats and wants to play and laugh, and
It's like the terrible twos, you know, like they're really boisterous at that age and like
Yeah,
testing boundaries and stuff.
right.
So you expect a 2-year-old to be a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah. So, but they said that, so the injury in his bowel, they said it was an infection and that's how he died. And they said that's
That's
when he
helpful
fell
for
down the
her.
stairs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Many who went to the funeral recognized that this was a murder. A rose crown crudely hid the bruises on Dennis's face. Authorities authorities here never ruled whether his death was an accident, a homicide, or the result of natural causes. Though there was an investigation, society and law enforcement of the mid 1960s did not accept the concept that a child in a middle class home could be the target of abuse.
Yeah. Her poor family,
Yeah,
like they would have been fucking thrown in jail.
right.
Or no one would have cared, I guess.
Also, her brother was a cop, and there's rumors that he hid information and he
Oh,
got rid of some evidence and things like that.
100%. Yeah.
And I think his family was known to be very or her family, sorry, her family was known to be very clan-like, and like if you crossed them, then everyone was against you. All the family would like come and intimidate you. So
Oh my God, that's like my family.
I feel like a lot of big families are like that, especially like Irish families or
You stick together, yeah.
yeah, but even so, like they were kind of known in White Bear Lake to just be the sketchy family.
Every town has a dodgy family.
Yeah.
There's a dodgy family in Ando. I can't remember like the names, but like you'll mention someone and go, oh, they're called like, I don't know,
Yeah.
blah blah. I really can't think of a name, so I'm just gonna say Treacle.
Right.
But like, oh, Danny Treacle or whatever of the Treacles, and my mum will be like, oh, watch out for them.
Yeah. They're everywhere.
Yeah, Treacle, what the fucking on?
So, okay, so because of those things, it would have been difficult at the time to prove that Lois Jurgens had committed murder. In spite of extensive physical evidence pointing towards severe abuse, the medical examiner did not classify the death under any of the standard classifications of accident, suicide, or murder. He simply marked it deferred.
Also, I think with continued abuse like that, there would be bruises that were old, bruises that were new, cuts that were a little bit healed. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was absolutely fine until he fell down the stairs. There would be like historic like marks on him.
Yeah.
So it would be obvious.
Yeah, and this was totally like the they kind of let the ball drop, the investigators and everything, even though it says later on that they did do a really good investigation. It's like the neighbors didn't say anything, even though they saw him with bruises all the time when he was outside playing and saw Lois like yelling at him. They didn't do anything. The police, when they came to the house to see his body and see what happened, like one of them said straight away, like you could tell that this wasn't an accident. And also, someone said, I think it was a police officer, picked up Robert, who was 5, and like brought him from one place to another while they were dealing with Dennis and the parents were dealing with that. Didn't think to speak to him in the car. They just sat in silence and drove.
But a 5-year-old is perfectly capable, like, of telling you a story about. But then I guess child testimony is.
But
really...
even so, he just didn't. He didn't think to even say, "Hey, are you okay? What happened?" He didn't say anything like that. They just drove in silence from point A to
Some
point
people
B.
find kids creepy. Some people can't talk to kids.
That's true. He's like a man in the 60s and he's like, what is this small thing? Yeah.
Who's this small human in the back of my car?
Right. So, yeah, there was also a great deal of suspicion surrounding Jerome Zerwas, the brother of Lois Jurgens, who was a police lieutenant. A common belief among witnesses and neighbors at the time of the murder and among the investigators who eventually reopened the case is that he interfered with the investigation and destroyed incriminating evidence.
Defo.
So, there's that. They buried the body in St. Mary's Cemetery, and after a juvenile court hearing, they took custody of Dennis's 5-year-old brother Robert, and
Good.
Lois and Harold Juergens returned to their house on Gardenet Drive in White Bear Lake, alone but free of any charge.
Well, I mean, thank fuck he got out because.
Well, he didn't.
Oh.
I wasn't gonna include this because I didn't want it to be too long, and we can cut it out. But so that was in 1965. In 1969, after the Juergens hired a new attorney, they were allowed to readopt Robert. Then, in 1972, the Juergenses were allowed to adopt 4 more children, the Houghton kids, 3 brothers and a sister from Kentucky. Both times there were social workers who objected, knowing a child had died in the Juergens home. Both times their supervisors overruled them. The Kentucky children endured 3 years with the Juergenses before the 2 older ones ran away in 1975 and later told police what life was like in that house. And it was very similar to what Dennis went through. They were just terrified of her.
Yeah, if you adopt like 4 kids that are siblings anyway, like they would look out for each other. And so, especially as that, like Dennis was 2, so couldn't defend himself, and B, he was all on his own.
Right.
Whereas, like, yeah, if you have like a little group, they have a better chance, you know.
And Robert too, like he endured it for the longest. He knew what was going on, and he even said like he was close to Dennis too. He said he was happy when he was adopted. It was like not a lonely home anymore. He had a little brother that he could play with, and
oh, that's heartbreaking.
yeah. All right. So that happened 60s, 70s. 15 years later, in 1980, Dennis's birth mother, Jerry, looked for Dennis. She had the intention of introducing Dennis, who was her firstborn, to her 4 children that she had had since. So,
this is savage.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I remember when I did like Jurek Retting or something, and that was one of the most hideous. I was like, why did I choose this?
Yeah.
Like, nobody wants to hear this. But no, it's interesting. Like, it's of its time, you know. Like,
yes.
In the 60s and 70s, and even up to the 80s, like you could fucking hit your wife, and someone would go, "That's domestic business. Like, it's none of your business."
Right. That's none of my business. This is a middle-class home, a middle-class suburb.
Whatever happens in the house stays behind doors. Like, keep it in the family. Like,
right.
You know.
Exactly. And also the book, A Death in White Bear Lake, it's also mentions how White Bear Lake at the time was entering this, it's like a contest that happened every year around that time in the whole country where towns could enter to be the best town in America. So that White Bear Lake at this time was entering that contest, and they won it. So just imagine just this perfect sheen of a town. They don't want anything like that to come out. People don't want to talk about it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. All right. So Jerry Sherwood, she's looking for a firstborn. She was informed by Ramsey County that Dennis had died at the age of 3. She had no idea. Looking further into it and wanting to find out more, she searched for the Juergens' contact details, and she called them, and Lois answered.
Good for her. I mean, the mum.
Yeah. She is the badass of this story too. Like, once she found out this happened, she just listened to her instincts, and she was like, this is really fishy.
Yeah.
So here's the conversation that she had with Lois. She said, "I'm Dennis's natural mother. I was just calling to find out what kind of little boy he was."
Oh.
Lois was surprised. She said she thought Sherwood had been informed of the death at the time. All the same, Lois seemed to Sherwood very nice and polite. She said that Dennis had been a happy, healthy, cute child. When he was found dead, she added, he had black blotches all over his body. She didn't know where they came from. So it's like Lois was like, oh, I didn't know what happened. He was a cute baby.
Okay, well, that is a lie that can easily be picked apart.
Yeah, but Jerry said that she was just very, American housewife, like very nice and polite on the phone.
Yeah.
Sherwood asked if Lois would send her a picture of Dennis, a picture of him in the baptismal slip Sherwood had bought him as an infant. Lois readily agreed, and Sherwood provided her address.
Sneaky.
Yeah. She also asked for anything else that Dennis had, that if she could have it or whatever, any kind of memorabilia. 6 weeks later, when nothing had arrived, Sherwood tried to call Lois again. The Jurgens' number had been changed, and the new number was unlisted.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Again, very suspicious.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would you do that?
I know. This left her with a bitter feeling, and after reading newspaper reports about the death, she was convinced that he had been beaten to death and demanded the case to be reopened. After calling the White Bear Lake Police Department and the Ramsey County Coroner's Office, they agreed. They took it much further and more seriously than it was taken back in 1965. After conducting several reports and further investigations, interviewing family members, neighbors, and exhuming Dennis's body, they came to the conclusion that this was a homicide.
So good that he wasn't cremated.
Yeah. Oh, that you can't cremate in the Catholic religion at that time. It was against the Catholic religion to cremate. So,
okay.
Yeah. All right. Lois was arrested on January 29th, 1987.
Yes.
A few months before I was born. The trial began on May 12th, 1987, 8 days before I was born. Lois had never even blinked throughout the trial except for one moment, when Robert Jurgens, who was now 26 and a policeman, he stood on the stand to testify against his mother. When he talked about her height, saying his mother was shorter than she was in fact, Lois Jurgens pursed her lips and shook her head with intensity. So...
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's all you care about.
Yeah, all the stories that we've done, it's like everyone at trial who's killed someone just has no remorse, and she is in that bandwagon as well.
They also just don't understand how they come across. Like, they've got no empathy. Like they're just like an alien pretending to be a human.
Right. So Robert recounted the day in 1965. He was riding a trike in the basement, and he witnessed his mother throwing Dennis down the stairs and kicking him. He also remembered Dennis. He remembered being really happy when Dennis came into the house. Dennis was 1, and he was 2.5. Before Dennis, the house had been very quiet, and he had felt lonely and afraid of his mother. Aww. But Dennis was full of energy. Dennis wasn't afraid. I think that's also what instigated it, too.
Yeah.
Lois Jurgens, 62. She was 62 at this time.
She so thought she'd gotten away with that. She was like, I am, like, rubbing her hat, like, hi, I am out of there. Like, no chance this is coming back to me.
Yeah. She chewed gum impassively as the jury announced its verdict, finding her guilty of third-degree murder in the death of Dennis. Under state law, third-degree murder denotes an unintentional slaying. So she didn't intend to kill him, just...
It's like manslaughter.
Yeah. She was sentenced to 25 years.
I argue that when you kick a 2-year-old down the stairs,
dude,
you are kind of aware something awful is going to happen. Like,
if you don't think something's going to happen, you're an idiot.
Yeah, like, She should have got more than that, but I guess you can't prove intent, so.
Well, you're going to be pissed off because, yeah. She was sentenced to 25 years. When the verdict was announced, the courtroom exploded with emotion. The prosecutors hugged each other. Spectators wept. Jerry Sherwood grasped her other children. And as onlookers watched with fascination, Lois snapped at her husband. "Harold," she said loudly and impatiently. "Harold, come here." Harold was still with her.
Fucking hell.
I know.
What a mook.
I know. So whipped. Anyways.
Yeah.
Lois only served 8 years of her sentence and was paroled in 1995. I think that she used that she wasn't well.
Oh, do you know what? This is what, like, have you seen the latest coverage with the Golden State Killer?
Yeah.
He is acting like he is like Nosferatu old.
He know.
Is like trembling, like bending over, all hunchback. It's like, dude, your neighbors said they saw you doing fucking yard work. Like, we know you're fine.
A week before they arrested him, he was riding his motorcycle 100 miles per hour down the PCH. So, come on, dude.
It's just the most pathetic, transparent attempt at winning sympathy when you are an absolute monster.
Yeah. Oh, I'm owed.
So, like...
Yeah.
Anyway.
So she got out in 1995. Harold Juergens died in 2000. At the time of his death, there was suspicion that Lois had poisoned him, but this was investigated and ruled out. There's also another story about her mother-in-law had a house fire, and they thought that maybe it was Lois as well, but that's just rumors.
Shit. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
I know. So it was investigated and ruled out he wasn't poisoned. After her release, she lived a quiet life as a widow and died on May 7th, 2013 at the age of 87. Not too far from where Will's parents live.
Good riddance to you evil old witch.
I know. Dennis was remembered as a bubbly, sturdy boy who was happy and outgoing.
She must have been so horrible to everyone.
Well, she put on a face. I think she was horrible to people that she could get away with being horrible to, but everyone else, she wanted to come across as this perfect housewife. So, even with Dennis, like, she would kind of put on the fact, like, oh, he's a bad child, I need to discipline him. You know, like she was being a good mother by disciplining him.
What is it? They're saying, like, spare the rod, something the child.
Save the child? Something like that.
Basically what it's saying is whip your kids. Like, because otherwise they're going to be spoiled and horrible.
Yeah. Don't, but yeah, that's the saying.
That's not my saying, it's just the saying.
Right. That was a saying at the time.
Yes.
So, all right. So the trial of Lois Juergens for the murder of 3-year-old Dennis was made national headlines, and it was the top news story of the state of Minnesota in 1987. So that's the end of the story, but I'll tell you the connection.
Ooh, yeah, go on. You've just been born. What happened? How did you...
So, it's not me, it's Will, my husband, his family.
Yeah. I bet he's at the door like, it's my time to shine.
Yeah. I'll go grab him maybe. But, okay, so this was national news. It was the biggest news story in Minnesota, 1987. Will was just born in 1986. His parents had just bought a new home and they were getting ready to move into it. All of a sudden, Will's mom is watching the news and she recognizes their new home they just bought is that home.
No, he lived in a murder house.
Yep.
Oh my my God.
Yeah.
That is such a good twist. I feel like I'm watching Shutter Island.
Your face right now. Hold on. Let me take a picture. I can't. I can't do it. Oh, man.
Print screen.
But yeah, she was like cleaning dishes and she dropped a plate and screamed and was like, "That's the house that we just bought."
Child ghost. Dennis seems like he'd be a nice ghost, though, like Casper.
Well, there are some ghost stories that they have, but
right, that's it. Get Will in for a ghost story. Get him in.
So they moved into that house, and if you get the book, The Death in White Bear Lake, the house is on the front cover.
I'm gonna find the cover and put it on the Instagram.
Yes. So he moved into that house. Him and his 3 other siblings, he was the youngest. And the weird and creepy thing is his older brother, Tony, you met Tony.
Yeah. Love that guy.
When he was like 3, he looked exactly like Dennis Jurgens.
Ooh, we're gonna have to get another picture side by side.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if Tony would want that online, but
well, too bad, Tony. You shouldn't have lived in the murder house. You shouldn't have looked like the other kid. I'll handle Tony.
That's the story of Dennis Jurgens and the connection to the house. They lived in it for, I think, 6 years, and then they bought the house that they're in now that you've been to.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you reckon was it really cheap? Like, is that why they got it? Or
yeah, I think so. It was like a 3-bedroom.
They should have been suspicious.
Yeah.
They should have thought, why is it so cheap?
Yeah. Should I get Will, or should I just tell you Will's ghost story? His personal ghost story.
I'll tell you what, I'll flip a coin. Let's see what the coin says. If it's a yes, Will can come in. To be honest, though, we are trying to do this while you were on holiday, and
actually, I don't even know where he is right now, so
you could be screaming around the house for like,
yeah,
the lake. Like, fuck this. No, you can't come and tell the story. Just tell the story.
Okay, so his story, and we can cut that all out.
I think it's funny.
Okay. Okay. You're in control this week, Talissa. You get to cut out whatever you want.
Rachel, nothing's getting cut
out. So his story is that he was asleep and he woke up. He said that he was awake. It wasn't a dream. And he went, for some reason, he was like sleepwalking or something. He found himself in the basement, and he saw a kid sitting on like a top shelf, just kind of swinging his legs and, looking kind of bubbly and laughing. And he was like, "Why is this kid sitting here?"
That is one of the scariest things I've ever heard. I'm in the house on my own, and I literally want to not look around in case I see a fucking kid ghost.
Do you want to hear what happened to me? I finished the other night. I finished researching the story. I was laying in bed. I finished researching it, and I was thinking about Dennis and like, oh, he's in a better place now, kind of thing. All of a sudden, the lamp next to me just went out.
No.
Yep. I couldn't turn it back on.
Like, me and Carly talk about ghosts and stuff, and I'm like, I don't believe in ghosts, I don't believe in ESP, I don't believe in any mumbo jumbo. Mm-hmm. And then I think it's because it scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Like, the thought that it's real scares me so much.
Yeah.
That I have to tell myself it's impossible and it doesn't happen.
I agree.
Even if I see something like out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, it's evolutionary that we try and find faces in things, and we try and our peripheral vision is always, on and stuff. Like, right. You're just imagining it. It's just the light, because the thought that there are ghosts or little kid Dennis ghosts swinging their legs in the basement makes me want to shit myself.
Yeah. Terrifying. I was going to say something else. Oh, so I think that the way that they reconciled living in that house, because Will's mom was not happy about nobody said anything to her, like the realtor or...
You should have to disclose.
Yeah. And she was like, why didn't you say anything? She said that to the owners of the house, and they said that they didn't have to. You're not required to. I think unless it happens in a year or like within the past year, you don't have to do it.
They may as well have just said to her, ha ha. That's their attitude, is it?
Good luck. So they moved in and they were all like a young, happy family, and she kind of reconciled it as like, as long as they have a happy time in this house, then they will kind of bring light into the house and hopefully lead Dennis into light. So that was
that's so lovely. But Will's mum is such a nice woman.
She is. Apparently Tony also saw Dennis at some point, and this is when he was like 3-4 years old, and Will's mom told him to tell Dennis to go to Jesus.
This is so scary, it makes me want to cry. Like, honestly, kid ghost is the scariest thing in the entire world. Oh, I'm dead. Oh, and then there's like, I'm scared, but it's also the fucking sweetest thing ever to think of, like, poor little kid ghost Dennis. Yes. So I think that concludes today's murders, right?
Yes. Thanks for listening this far.
Yes, this has been a bit of a rocky one. We've had loads of like technical issues, but we got through it, didn't we?
Yeah, it's because I'm up at a lake house in the middle of nowhere, so...
Okay, watch out for kid ghosts. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Transatlantic Crime this week. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe.
And if you'd like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at TransatCrimePod, Instagram at Transatlantic Crime, and on Facebook with Transatlantic Crime Podcast.
Thanks, bye.